Welcome to What's Korean Cinema 32 on Train to Busan. And how do you get good critical notices and audience appeal working the crowded zombie genre? Well, you make a good one. And in this case, you make a good one that's designed as 2-hour entertainment only. And that's what director Yeon Sang-ho did in 2016's Train to Busan, which you might have heard of. But we're going to fill you in on what the director is like and what he's about. And my name is Kennedy, and with me to discuss this is Hangul Celluloid's Paul Quinn, who's maybe been on a train akin to this during his stay in Korea 1.5 years ago or whatever.
I'd love to say I had, but I got a bus to Busan, so not quite the same thing. One of our UK compatriots who does things about Korean culture, I'm sure some of you know him, Philip Goman from London Korean Links, is, as we speak, in Korea on his yearly 2-week, cultural search that he does. And I met up with him for a meal a couple of days before he went. And in his hands, he had a ticket, and it just said KTX Train to Busan. And he was like, look at that. I'm going to be on the train to Busan. So if it affected, a very collected gentleman like him with excitement, Train to Busan will hit you with excitement too.
Giddy excitement, for heaven's sake. So that's good. Like not stuffy cultural things courtesy of him, but rather like cool. It's just like I'm in the movie.
Yeah, give me a zombie.
And that's the way to go about life. So well done. And in the case of Train to Busan, that came true. And in terms of my quick opinion, this is a good one. Speaking from a genre perspective, certainly a fast-paced ride designed more as an action apocalypse thriller rather than a horror movie. Yes, it is a horror movie, but it's not particularly scary. It's too action-packed for that. And for the running time in question, barely 2 hours, we're engaged in the terror and the emotional content at hand, and it's a fine, confident live-action debut. And I'm just going to put forth a wish to director Yeon Sang-ho. Don't make a sequel. Just no one should, but especially you, don't make a sequel to this. Move on to other art and creativity elsewhere.
Right there with you.
Because your take will be more long-lasting. And if this is the only take from you in live action featuring zombies, so just stay away from it. You've done your thing. Drop the mic, so to say.
And by the looks of it, considering his next project, hopefully that means he will let it go. Because it's been done, and he did it.
So as for your short opinion to get us into discussion, what do you want to say in short about the Train to Busan?
I have rarely been so ludicrously entertained for 2 hours solidly watching any film, regardless of whether it's Korean or anything else. I had a grin from ear to ear from start to finish. I adored Train to Busan. I've never hugely been a zombie fan. I'll watch zombie films. I know, the Evil Dead and all the classics. I enjoy them. Train to Busan hit me between the eyes. I was ludicrously entertained.
That's hard to disagree with. But we have to address the issue of the crowded zombie genre, I think, immediately. And you have to bear with me. I wrote not a rant, but I wrote something. It came out of me. It turned out to be a paragraph. So the zombie genre, it certainly has always been there and crowded ever since the genre content broke. Night of the Living Dead is a sort of point where where conventions are established, and that got expanded upon, that got riffed on, that got cheaply and lazily ripped off and made. But through media exposure, in particular on TV nowadays, through The Walking Dead, it's still here, and it becomes increasingly challenging to do anything of the dead. Right, and some even change it up by not even calling zombies anymore. In The Walking Dead, they're walkers, right, which is fine, but they try to vary up the conventions. They've by now experimented with the danger of running zombies, in 28 Days Later versus George Romero's classic slow-walking zombies. And so many decades on, it's becoming increasingly hard to engage an audience who's seen it all, man. We're jaded, we're numb to this. And whether you try something new or adhering to tropes, and we say elements we recognize, it's still hard to get a zombie movie done well nowadays. So sometimes being quirky and loving the genre and how that leads to creativity helps in the case of Shaun of the Dead. I think that's a wonderful example of fanboys doing something fresh with the genre, because Simon and Edgar are huge fans of George Romero and horror movies. So, that's an example of a new angle. But, in terms of Train to Busan, it's so, again, it's my take, it seems so stripped of the anger that was apparent in prior works, and it's more designed as a ride where care is attempted, emotional care for the characters is attempted for 2 hours. It's not designed to be poignancy for a lifetime. So how on earth does Yeon Sang-ho pull this off? Well, it's about entertainment, of course. It's about executing well and making sure we have a damn good time. In the case of this, it does find a good angle. In this case, the train. It's set on a train. Zombies on a train. Snakes on a plane, zombies on a train. And it crafts this roller coaster ride, and even though the setting isn't exceptional, but it tracks back to that single setting that was apparent in George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, certainly Dawn of the Dead in Shopping Mall, which really became a prison for the characters, and Day of the Dead is set in a bunker. So he tracks back to that, and I think he has such vision and confidence, and possibly a lot of genre know-how, to single out what he likes, what he doesn't, what he thinks works, and what doesn't. And I don't know, going by gut feeling, I think he's crafted his art in animation, because he's crafted his art in animation before, maybe he has stronger ideas of images.
I think that's a very fair point, actually, yeah.
And he was able to transfer that and translate that to working live, and translate what pace and beats needed to be present in order for this ride to literally be one. And someone without vision wouldn't commit this confidence on screen in this way. It's frills, and that just want a reservation for 2 hours. Nothing else. But that counts. And to also challenge yourself by not going the George Romero route in terms of gore, because it's not a terribly gory movie. That's actually great. It's it's a daunting task to make a zombie movie somewhat less gory in the global eyes of the fan community, but it strikes that balance between intensity, pace, the frenetic nature of the hordes of zombies, and one doesn't wish for intricate gore in this movie. It's not a cop-out. So I think that's like I'm not done with my review, but I think that's why I think the movie works in the crowded zombie genre. But it's a difficult question. So how about you? What makes this not so original take on the zombie apocalypse work, despite being set in that crowded genre? Because it's not uniquely Korean. It doesn't feel uniquely Korean, so that's not its angle. So why do you think this works in a global perspective?
Certainly, for me personally, as an international global person, I agree with you. It's not specifically Korean, but there are elements that work as well in Korean cinema as any other. For me, I guess it's a two-pronged attack. All the characters have gorgeous, funny little moments, just unspoken humor that just brings a smile to your face prior to anything. The main character completely messing up his daughter's birthday present and them not saying anything, the little girl just looking across the room at the present she's already got. The big bruiser character played by Ma Dong-seok, who's a huge actor, talking to the little girl, pointing to his pregnant wife and saying, "I made that."
I love that exchange, by the way, because the wife says, like, "Shut up, well, it's true, isn't it?"
Yeah, and even the wife calling the child sleepy, and when the little girl asks why, she said, "Because my husband's too damn lazy to name the baby." Those beautiful, funny little moments offset everything. And then you've got the other side of it, which is the choreography of those zombies. All I could think the whole way through, if you think of a flood movie where there's water cascading through windows downstairs, that's what these zombies are like. They flow. They're like rabid dogs. They're just everywhere. The beauty of them falling from helicopters, breaking an arm and getting up with the arm still hanging halfway across their back. It's so beautifully done. It's so entertaining in the way that they just hurl themselves through windows, 2 floors up, fall on the ground, and just get up whatever way they want.
It really comes down to that mix of spectacle and character, even though it isn't, like Shakespearean drama or anything.
Yeah, it's breathtakingly original, even though it's not. I love the way he and the people that worked for him, obviously, set up those zombies to be so hordes. You actually think there is a whole city of them. You look back at any classic zombie films, yeah, there's loads of zombies, whether they're slow zombies that you can run away from or fast zombies. There's always a finite number. This feels like it's infinite. They're everywhere. And I think a combination of that beautiful choreography along with him pulling you in with gentle, understated sarcasm and humor, it puts a smile on your face that stays.
And it's not something you can replicate easy, because it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, that movie from America, it's totally like that one, only slightly better. No, it just seems to operate in its own sort of, the instincts are very good and very well executed, I suppose. They really are. So they never feel like we recognize the tropes, but they don't feel like tropes in that negative sense, I suppose, because characters in a zombie movie, that's been staples before. I mean, you go back to Night of the Living Dead and so forth. But what we don't see in these movies, and I thought, because they would be over in 20 minutes, Jon shows that animals are infected too. And some movies hint at it, most movies don't, because you realize that if animals would be as easily affected, then the characters would be fucked in 20 minutes. Because you'd have birds and animals just jumping through the windows of the house in Night of the Living Dead and so forth. But he makes a point that, yes, animals are affected too, but it's not like they are running alongside the zombies in this one. But I thought that was a little, oh boy, like if the animals are getting affected too, then the whole world is gone in an hour, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, even from the very first scene where we see an infected animal, the way it reanimates and the way a lot of them reanimate constantly made me think of, believe it or not, Japanese cinema. Things like The Grudge, Dark Water, the way those, that the long-haired ghosts always moved in a really creepy, twisted, jerky manner. And the way that animal at the very start of the film reanimates itself, it's really jerky, it's really creepy,
and pretty decent CGI effect as well.
Well, totally. And that as well, just to make me think of Japanese cinema, that takes some doing.
Because I hate it.
He's one there as well, so I think he had very, very strong ideas, and I like you say, I think that came from his animation background of knowing exactly what he wants before he starts.
Yeah, because I assume he's pretty good with a pen and paper. You just assume that he wasn't just like visually driven but couldn't draw. I mean, I just assume he can and could.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, he sets up basic character drama that works for these 2 hours. I never felt like it was so watered down, this character drama with a father that has to step up his role, face the responsibility of the effect he's had on his daughter by being sort of absentee, but also the effect he's had on the world through his line of work. And we won't reveal why that is, because it feeds into the reason why there's an outbreak at all. You are engaged because when he buys the second Wii U console, and you're right, that beat where his daughter opens up the package and is not thrilled at all, she just looks at it, and it's almost like dry and quirky the way they look up, then cut to that there's a second Wii U in the room. So they don't make like, Dad, why did you buy a second Wii U? No, he doesn't go for those beats. He just goes for like, oh, like it'd be internal, like, oh, and we go, ooh.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we do.
And the drama is felt enough, man, because she'd rather not have him be there. She'd rather be with her mother. And now she has to rely on him. That takes something for her, the daughter, because he hasn't been there. So why should he be now? And all of that is set up well, clear and coherent. And the commentary certainly weaves into it, because there certainly some corporate finger pointing going on here,
Yeah.
how corporations experiment on the environment, and how, in this case, him being a fund manager in the financial world, just sort of can pull out and pass the buck, because that's how we see things can go. You can be callous in that regard.
Almost expected to be.
Also, what I like often in movies is this, how not all movies set it up well, but when they do, it's great how these disaster movies, how these end of the world movies build up their end of the world scenario. I've always had a fondness for that. And how do you think he does? Because he doesn't drop the first sign of something's up is not them encountering a zombie. They're sitting in the car and there's fire trucks and stuff. How do you think he gradually gets us into that?
I think he hits this perfectly. I mean, if you look at Korean disaster movies, Tower or Hyundai, what you've got an hour of building up to the event, and they introduce you to all the characters. The great thing about the Train to Busan is within the first minute you see the reanimated animal. When they go on in the car, as you said, they see fire trucks going past. As the train's pulling out, the little girl looks out the window, and you just see the edge of what is a zombie jumping to grab somebody, but you just see the top of his back, and all this is happening within a couple of minutes, and the first zombifications within about 5-10 minutes, and you just think this is
pre-20 minutes we're into it, which is fast, but he isn't anxious.
Exactly, and it's pushing those little things. He phones the main character, phones his mother, and she's talking away, and as she's talking, she's gradually going, and it just leads you in so perfectly, so quickly, but so nicely.
But also, you know what he's not doing? He's not doing the 5.1 boom, as I like to say, because that scene where his daughter is looking out the train window and someone a zombie jumps a person, that isn't accompanied by a boom.
No, silent.
It's silent, essentially silent. And even the reveal when they're in the car, when you see the burning building, which is not a reveal, POV reveal, it's a reflection reveal, right? He's confident in that regard. He's got his eye on the characters as they watch something horrible that we see merely through coincidence. I mean, it's not coincidence, but it's a reflection rather. That's well dropped. Those sparse, well dropped notions of there's something going on here. He also slowly but surely drops plot points about the background of what is going on. I mean, we can sense there's a spill of some sort. The movie is pretty open with that, but the connections to the main characters we won't spoil, and then he establishes archetypes galore, man, and he's so confident that he's almost gleeful the way he establishes archetypes, innocence in the kids, and a father that has to step up, and a kick-ass character, a funny that's also a funny character, and you got the big meanie in the case of this corporate bastard that everybody loves to hate, and that tracks back to Night of the Living Dead and countless of movies. Mr. Cooper in Night of the Living Dead, who's this who does these heinous things in that movie too. That developing tone is really superbly well handled. And the cast also, and this is such a key. The cast, as they as characters, we as viewers, find out slowly but surely through television and information on the loudspeakers, the way as they find out what is going on. They're all engaged, man. This cast is not like, zombie movie, whatever, so I get paid. No, they're all involved, man, without being asked to perform in the revolutionary drama of 2016. That is something to get that tone right, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I love the way he focuses on characters as well. I mean, for the early stages, a lot of those early train scenes are completely from the perspective of the little girl who says next to nothing. And you just follow her as you go, and you learn as she learns. And it's fabulous. And the way it switches to her father and then to the big kick-ass guy, etc., etc., it warms you to each character as you go along, as this is gradually unfolding right in front of their eyes, really.
He's being funny, though, because he seems to establish characters distinctly. Characters that, the train conductors and all of that, like, and wow, she's beautiful. She looks like a movie star. Some of those characters are the first to go.
Yeah, totally.
which I found delightful, like, because I thought that the female train conductors, I don't know. She looks so distinctive. I thought, like, yeah, she's gonna be in a movie. She's the first to go. She's the first to get bitten, and I don't know if that is a cameo by someone known, but regardless, I think he's having a lot of fun with. We think we got the movie like down. Nope, you don't.
Very much, he's good at supplanting expectations completely, you know, and you do try and figure out who's going to go, and you may well be right in some stages, but you're going to be wrong in others. Definitely, there is one character who eventually becomes a zombie, and I was convinced they wouldn't be. And I can't. Spoilers won't let me tell you.
We won't reveal anything. No.
You know, towards the latter half of the film, this person becomes a zombie because of her relationship with well, I've just given it away. She's a girl. Because of her relationship with another character, and I was convinced she was going to make it through to the end. I was convinced she was going to be a big part of the finish. And nope.
It's been the playful and also haunting aspect of the genre. I mean, we go back to Night of the Living Dead, the 1969 movie. The way it's a darker movie, it's a gloomy movie, it is doomsday, it's apocalypse. The way Romero takes out certain characters in that one, it still gets me. I don't know if you remember how Night of the Living Dead, the 1969 movie, ended, but it's a gut punch.
Yeah.
It's a
totally
effing gut punch, and there's some just haunting imagery that also speaks to someone who knew social commentary very well, George Romero, that is. And he even does it in Dawn of the Dead, and to an extent in Day of the Dead too. That well, we can all be expendable whether you liked us or not. You know, heroes are born out of this movie, but that were timid first, and then they have to defend their step up. It's infuriating though that Gong Yo's character, you think he gets it of the first evidence of there's zombies on this train, and yet he says that heinous line which means he still doesn't get it. Where you hinted at it, where he says to his girl, like, "There's no use helping anyone." It's like, don't, and you just want to reach your hand into it and just strangle that motherfucker.
Yeah, you really do.
And I say that with enthusiasm because I had enthusiasm watching the movie. These are character traits and tropes. So some don't change. He certainly does. We can reveal that he does. He steps up. But, you know, it's a clever thing that a filmmaker tries to execute a known well. Like the tropes well. Like the evil CEO, the businessman. He never changes. And why should he? Because that's the character you need to have in this type of drama. You need to hate. Totally. And in so many other movies that would have been so like roll your eyes cliches, but Jon certainly has a handle on that. And my God, if that isn't admirable, I don't know what is. Do you think it's a scary movie? If we establish, yes, it's a horror movie, action apocalypse too, but do you think it's truly scary? Is it aiming to be like scary horror?
I don't think it's aiming to be scary at all. Maybe I'm too jaded from having watched too many horror films, but it's a horror film, but I wouldn't call it a horror film. You know, it's an action film with happens to have zombies in it. And I think the fact that it isn't scary, from my point of view, works in its favor because you enjoy it rather than rolling your eyes at, oh, look, horrific cliche.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to what you're engaged in is the character drama and what characters you want to live and end up well at the end of the movie. So it doesn't need to add neither gory horror or startles and things like that, because I think the genre mix that it puts forth here, the action apocalyptic thriller with zombies, works perfectly well. I mean, I'm a horror buff. I like gore, I like gloom, and I like doomsday movies, but he doesn't need to be terribly gloomy. We're engaged emotionally because of characters and the fact that this is fun. These hordes are fun, and this rapid outbreak in this rapid movie that is fun. And also the characters, because the train is moving fast, the zombies are moving fast. Characters need to make decisions based on this urgency too.
Totally.
That fits well into the pace of the movie, but he doesn't forget to close chapters on characters. And I'm not saying because they die. It's just the general rule of thumb with the characters. You close chapters on them. I wanted to ask, how did they cast here? I mean, are we talking A-list actors at the forefront mixed with character actors?
Oh yeah. We're talking big. The main male character. I was going to do this at the end, but I'm going to do it now. Gong Yoo, who is the fund manager, the father of the little girl. He is the latest rising star of Korean cinema. He's been working since about 2003. You may well know him for a film called Silenced, which was about a teacher who finds out he works for a deaf school, and he finds out the little deaf children are being abused, and it's based on a true story, and he goes to help them, and it all goes to court, and everybody's lives are ruined. It's a phenomenal film. That was his big breakthrough. He has since been in Kim Ji-yoon's The Age of Shadows, which was another big hit from last year. So he's big name. His, I guess, eventual friend, the big bruiser who beats everybody up and is actually quite funny, is Ma Dong-seok, who you'll know from, Veteran, The Royal Tailor, Kundo, The Five, Rough Play. The big names of films that he has been in just go on and on and on and on. He's one of those actors that you always recognize him. You always see him as a big bruiser with a heart of gold, and you can never remember whether that film was him or someone else, and you can never remember his name. Two more, and I'm nearly done. The pregnant lady is a lady called Jung Yoo Mi, who you might not recognize. Personally, I looked at her and thought, I've seen her somewhere before, and I couldn't place her. She's been in, again, endless films. She was in The Silence with Gong Yoo. Her first film was A Bittersweet Life with Lee Byung-hun, which was way back in 2005. And I went and had a little check just to see, and she looks exactly the same.
Of course she does.
It's the same old thing. She's been in huge stuff.
For my money's worth, by the way, she steals this movie. By the way, I have some notes on that. Dramatically, I think she's the reigning queen of this movie, if you would.
I would agree with you, 99%. What I'm about to say is just gonna knock everything else out. If you look at the little girl, Kim Soo-an, again, you look at her, she doesn't say very much a lot of the time. Her moments of, her timing's perfect, her punches are perfect. In, I guess, 2013, I saw a little short film, which quickly became my favorite short film of all time.
Is it night fishing again?
Not quite. You know me on Facebook and everything else, so you're bound to know what I'm talking about when I say it. There was a director called Yoon Ga-eun who has this year done a film called The World of Us about a load of children, which has been hugely successful. It's won awards left, right, and centre. In 2013, she graduated from university by making a short called Sprout, about a little girl who her mother's having a party, and she decides off her back that she's going to go on a mission through the town to get her mother sprouts to give to her guests. It stars that little girl, Kim Soo-an. From the moment I saw her in Sprout, I just thought she's going to be huge. And I last night printed off the films that she's done since Sprout, and I've got 3 pages.
Really? So someone's either keen to work or she's being exploited.
I mean, she's last year's Love Lies, which was huge, a colonial tale. She was in Coin Locker Girl, which was a huge film from a couple of years ago. She's just mad, sad, bad, sorry, thanks, hide and seek. She's been in everything. Horror Stories, which was a huge thing in this same year as Train to Busan. And from her simple little beginnings, when I watched her in Sprite, you just think she's going to be phenomenal. And it's blown me away that she's done so much. And here she is in Train to Busan. And yes, I agree about the pregnant lady ruling the roost, almost. Because for me, it's our little girl that takes the biscuit.
Well, yeah, it's hard to argue against that because she is on and shows the right frequency to the performance because she's more reserved with her father in the beginning, and then expectedly, she shows fear very well, and then feels the connective tissue to her father being stronger, and she's on board with that, like you read about, very expressive, but not directed with an over-the-top sense where just because she's a kid, she needs to emote a lot and overstate things. Nope. Overstating things, well, there is a moment, but not involving her.
Yeah, totally.
So them two of them, those are the ones that run away with this movie, I think.
They massively do. Yeah. They really do.
I wanted to ask, any favorite moments, zombie hordes wise, without spoiling the movie, because there are some like iconic sequences where you go like, oh boy, here we go.
I think there are probably three for me. At one point, not to give too many spoilers away, the inhabitants have to change trains, or they're trying to change trains because of something that's going on. And as characters are trying to move between the trains, you see a city full of zombies from above screaming in almost a triangle towards the people that are trying to move. That's one for me.
That's the trailer moment, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. The second one, as helicopters are going above, zombies are dropping from helicopters, landing splat on the ground, getting up, battered and twisted and going on. That's number two. And number three, as the main male character tries to get his daughter out from under a train, there's a window which has got hordes of zombies behind it. It breaks and they flow out, and it is like a flood of zombies. They are just over the top of each other, constantly it is like a flood of water. Those three things immediately come to mind.
It brings out the point that these crowd scenes, I mean, that was designed a little bit differently and it's enhanced by effects, but these rushing crowd scenes, the hordes, it's all well balanced between coherent chaos, that choreography, because there is some choreography needed here, because you can't just randomly have people rush, right? And you need to have a technical crew that understands that you need to capture it, because the Yon doesn't go the shaky cam route and the over-edited route, right? This is coherent chaos, pitch perfect, coherent chaos. And that is a rarity globally nowadays.
Hugely, yeah.
My favorite moment, and it's not, it's a rushing scene, I suppose, but it's an audience-pleasing moment when Ma Dong-seok saves Gong-yo's daughter by punching a zombie. He runs at the zombie from the side and punches it out of the way. And that's moments that is going to make a crowd go nuts, because he has been likable as a character already. He's this... You don't think he's going to be the action hero of the piece, but because he seems like he's very timid, and his wife is sort of bullying him a little bit, but...
and on that thing, immediately other things. And that's the great thing about Train to Busan. As you talk about it, other scenes come back that you just think, oh yeah, there's a scene where he takes a baseball bat and he's just, moving through the carriage, just blattering people, throws the baseball bat away and then just starts using his fists. And it's almost ballet. It's gorgeous.
I don't know if they've ever tapped him to be to do action at all, because he's not the the hunk, like the 0% body fat hunk or anything, but he certainly is capable of just wielding power, and it's not a stretch to see him go from. I mentioned the thing that his wife is like bullying him a little bit. It's always that couple always has a sync, playful sync, and I don't think that's antagonism between them ever. The first scene where he knocks on the door while his pregnant wife, is in the toilet, like, "Honey, are you done?" And she just goes boom, like she beats the door from within. That way he knows that she's not done. So I'm just gonna stand here and wait. But that relationship is built very well and believable, and they're in sync, the two actors and all of that. So,
I mean, if you look at his career of movies, there have been some action stuff, but the majority of his films have been as the big, seemingly bruiser who turns out to have a heart of gold. He's done an awful lot of melodramas. He's done things where it's a guy with terminal illness who tries to find his place in life. He's not archetypally the huge action hero. So seeing him doing this, he just fits to a T.
He totally does, and like the character drama beats between them as a couple are very wonderful. Without spoiling it, there's a beat where his wife and Gong Yu's daughter has hidden in a toilet, and they reach that caught finally. There's a big sequence where they need to crawl past the zombies, and we won't spoil the unique angles to that. But when they do reach that toilet, they can't speak because they'll be found out. So she opens the door, and it's almost that brief realization that thank God he's here, but we can't say anything, not just yet. And then he moves on, like the movie's moving, but he has time to naturally inject that beat, and has time to have a little dialogues about the fact that Ma's character is very perceptive, and he even talks to Gong Yu's character and has some fatherly advice to him.
There's another tiny moment. I'm not sure if it's that moment or another one, but there is one point where the two girls or one of the girls, the pregnant girl, is in the washroom, and he turns up and opens the door. I'm assuming it's this point, and he looks at her lovingly, like he's come to rescue her.
Exactly.
And she just punches him, and you just think, isn't that just beautiful?
Yeah,
absolutely gorgeous.
And also like that Jon is brave enough to, again, we go back to the fact that characters are taken out that I thought was going to be in the movie. I mean, that tracks back also to Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, but even Deliverance to an extent, because he doesn't die, but you're the big macho man with the bow and arrow, the Burt Reynolds, breaks his legs. He's out of the movie. So like heroes that you don't expect to stand up needs to stand up, and I like when that is done well. Certainly is here, and characters' bravery is born. Some characters' natural bad and evil streak is extended, and that's infuriating. And he plays with that psychology. Characters in peril and in crisis that are afraid to speak are way too easily manipulated by those that are just loud. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the way that CEO, the businessman, affects crowd. I won't spoil that particular scene. It's sort of towards the end of the movie, but that's infuriating. How a loud voice can affect those in fear, but infuriating means that this movie is effective.
Well, totally, and the way those in fear then, obviously end up back in the one with the loud voice. It's like, so it just works on every level in terms of that.
I really am at the end of my notes. I just want to say that as close to perfect as it is, there is a moment towards the end, and I know you have the same notes. I'm not going to speak a lot about it. That it doesn't harm the movie at all, but it is the sign of like some lack of confidence, where Jon has been good at stating just as much as he needs, but he overstates the closure of a character's journey through flashback device towards the end, and that wasn't needed because we had clarity in terms of how that character relationship had developed and how it concluded. We didn't need the additional flashback to emphasize that, and I thought that was out of touch with this movie. Let's just say that.
I agree, and
was that vague enough, you think?
I think so. And, anybody who watches the film will know the scene that we're talking about because separately we both were annoyed by it.
I was more like hey, wait a minute. This is new for this movie.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
In Yeon's defense, if you look at Korean cinema in general, the last 20 minutes, you can almost guarantee it's going to go to melodrama. From right back from the golden age, that's what they did. And almost any film will have melodramatic elements, and most of them get away with it because it's not that far removed. He tries here. I don't think he has a choice. I think in terms of a Korean audience, he has to go to major melodrama, and in doing so, he takes it too far because we're watching a zombie movie. It doesn't need that. It's melodramatic enough without here's melodrama. But I think he's done it specifically to try to appeal to a Korean audience, and he's done the wrong thing.
I'm sure audiences were on board in a general sense, overall sense.
I'm sure. I think he can be forgiven to an extent because of what I think drove him to it, but it's completely unnecessary, as you say.
It's a 30-40 second block of the movie that, just imagine that he could have had the crying and then the 30-40 second sort of cut and then the shot where we see an event shadowed on the ground, right? I would have gotten that. I would have understood that. It would have been powerful. It is powerful, but a little misstep there. But nothing that detracts from the overall effect of the movie, not at all.
Certainly not, no.
And my final note, as I said, Jung Mi as the pregnant mother steals the movie, I think, with this. She has this, she needs to push forward this. She's highly pregnant in the movie, right? So she needs to push forward this protective motherly aura and breed her bravery and strength and dignity in the face of grave situations. It's like a reserved performance because she instinctively, the character, certainly the actors, instinctively know she has to put on a brave face in certain situations. Yes, she's emotional, but she is quick to switch to priorities in the face of this situation. Really, really well-balanced performance, I think. So yes, that's the end of my notes, buddy. What else do you want to say about Train to Busan?
The final thing I'll say is anybody that sits and watches Train to Busan after you fully enjoy it and you love Jung Mi and you love Kim Soo-eun, if you can find a little short called Sprout online, please go watch it. It will blow you away. She is incredible in it. And while you're on it, go back and check out A Bittersweet Life for Jung Mi and see what she was doing 12 years ago, and you'll see how wonderful she was as an actress then as she is now in Train to Busan as a pregnant mother.
Alrighty, so hopefully we did it justice, but regardless, as for availability, Train to Busan is now available on digital, DVD and Blu-ray in the UK, courtesy of Studio Canal. It's also put out by Wellgo in the US, and worldwide availability really should be high as as time moves on. If it's not released plentiful in other regions and countries, it will be, because it's guaranteed sales across the world. It's also available on the US Netflix and the Canadian Netflix, in case you want to stream it right now. Anyway, we are done for this episode. I've been Kenny B, and with me was Paul Quinn. Not yet traveled on one of these bullet trains to Busan, but in the future he might be able to hold his very own ticket and imagine himself being in the movie, sort of pathetically so, because nothing's going to happen. He will just have a ticket.
Well, major spoiler alert. Hopefully, I'll be on a Train to Busan in October, but we shall see.
Excellent. Well, hope it happens. But in the meantime, we are done. So say goodbye, buddy.
See you later, guys.